Today, we're breaking down a really fascinating, intense, and highly structured protocol from our source material that literally promises absolute transformation. And look, this isn't about some gentle, step-by-step habit building. No, we're talking about a strict, isolation-based boot camp designed to completely overhaul your life from the ground up. If you've been feeling stuck or kind of like your biggest goals are just miles away, you'll want to lock in for this one. Okay, let's dive into this. 6. Everything we're exploring today hinges completely on this one specific number, 6 months. To actually make this protocol work, you've got to commit to this time frame with absolute, ruthless dedication. It's a window that's long enough to see massive, undeniable physical and mental changes, but just short enough that you can maintain an intense sprint of discipline without completely burning out.
And then there's 10. This is exactly why you'd even consider putting yourself through such an intense 6-month sprint. 10 years. The source material makes this massive, almost unbelievable promise. If you strictly follow this protocol, you can achieve goals in just 6 months that would normally take the average person a full 10 years to accomplish. We're literally talking about compressing an entire decade of growth into a fraction of the time. But, well, to pull that off, you've absolutely got to be willing to do what most people simply won't.
Let's move to Phase 1 and see how this built. Phase 1, the Great Disconnect.
Because here's the thing, you just cannot achieve radical growth while staying rooted in your current environment. You basically have to disappear from the world for 6 months. That means stepping away from those negative, draining friends, totally deleting attention-stealing apps, and, yes, finally, leaving those toxic group chats that offer literally nothing but gossip. And hey, if people get confused by your sudden disappearance, just let them be. Right now, your one and only focus is your mind, your body, and your purpose. You really have to learn to just say no.
Success is the best revenge. Man, we see this quote plastered all over the internet all the time, right? But the source actually throws a massive red flag at this exact behavior. It insists that you have to stop posting quotes like this as statuses or stories just to prove some point to others. Posting it is just a plea for attention. Instead of showing off or trying to make people jealous, you need to take all of that energy, internalize it, and use it silently to do the actual work. Essentially, stop fighting with people and start fighting for your future.
All right, that brings us to Phase 2, rewire your mind. Now, what's really interesting about this is how literal the source gets. Once you've cleared out your physical environment, the real challenge begins inside your own head. Look at how specific these steps are for clearing out that emotional baggage. If you're angry or feeling that heavy exam tension, don't just ignore it. Write your frustrations down on a piece of paper and then literally burn it. Or grab your phone, record a video venting to yourself, and then just hit delete. It's like a mechanical purge. You get it completely out of your system so you actually feel emotionally lighter and ready to focus.
And the source follows that up with a stark, almost brutal warning. Keep your sorrows silent. It really reinforces this whole theme of extreme self-reliance we're seeing. When you're struggling during this boot camp, and you will, keep those sorrows to yourself. Sharing your pain with others, well, it rarely helps. In fact, it often just multiplies your own suffering and, even worse, invites mockery from people who frankly don't genuinely care. Your pain is your fuel, so don't waste it by complaining to an audience.
Moving right along to Phase 3, Fuel the Machine.
And this brilliantly illustrates the shift into physical and mental maintenance. Think about your smartphone for a second. It regularly gets software updates to run faster, right? And it actively blocks viruses. But what about you? The source argues you need to start treating your own brain and habits exactly like a high-tech product. You've got to actively download mental updates by constantly learning and ruthlessly block viruses, which in this case are toxic people and garbage inputs.
Let's consider this incredibly visual analogy from the text, the iron and magnet effect. Think about it. If you leave a plain piece of iron right next to a magnet for, say, 20 days, it inevitably takes on magnetic properties itself. Well, you are exactly the same. If you constantly surround yourself with negativity, mindless scrolling, or even just bad Netflix shows for weeks on end, you absorb those exact traits. You're literally corrupting your own internal software. You have to guard your environment fiercely.
Because, let's be real, you can't run a high-performance mind inside a broken-down body. The physical requirements of this boot camp, they're totally non-negotiable. You've got to eliminate the junk food, mainly because it actively triggers bad moods, headaches, and just wrecks your ability to focus. Eating healthy actually balances out your brain chemistry. Plus, you have to hit the gym. Building physical strength boosts your testosterone, your energy, and your confidence. It acts like the main generator powering those massive 6-month goals.
Which brings us to the final stage, Phase 4, the execution blueprint.
This is where all that preparation meets daily, relentless action. See, if you just stare at a massive 10-year goal, you're going to freeze up. It's just too big, right? So you have to deconstruct that impossible mountain into tiny, actionable steps. You take your ultimate 10-year vision and you shrink it down. What needs to happen this year? Then, what's the target for this 6-month boot camp? Shrink it again to the month, down to the week. And finally, the absolute most important part. What is the single actionable task you must execute today? You don't conquer a decade all at once, you guys. You conquer it one perfectly executed day at a time.
So the crucial point is this: motivation fades. It's cheap and it vanishes quickly. You absolutely cannot rely on watching hyped-up motivational content to get you through 6 months of intense isolation and hard work. To maintain actual discipline, the source demands a clear, highly personal why. Maybe it's changing your family's financial status, or escaping poverty, or finally achieving peak health. Whatever it is, it has to be so deeply rooted that it literally pulls you out of bed on the days you just want to quit.
And when it is time to work, absolute, undivided focus is demanded. Multitasking is a complete trap. The text stresses that you must enter a flow state by doing exactly one thing at a time. If you're eating, just eat. If you're at the gym, just work out. Stop mixing home thoughts at work and work thoughts at home. Start a task, finish it completely, and only then do you move to the next.
Well, we've reached the end of the explainer, and I really want to leave you with this final, provocative thought straight from the source. If you actually commit to this, if you vanish, do the hard work, and stay disciplined, people are going to talk, for sure. They'll call you crazy, they'll say you've changed, let them. Ignore the critics, keep your head down, and really ask yourself, if you start today and execute this flawlessly, who will you be in 6 months? Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive, and I'll see you in the next explainer.